Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyra and today I'm bringing to you 5 mini bite-size reviews on 5 mini bite-size palettes. If you're new to my channel, a very special welcome to you. I hope you enjoy what you see today, and if you do, I hope you subscribe before you leave. Today's video, I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a roundup. I've been purchasing a lot of mini or quad type palettes lately because when I'm in my everyday life, I'm kind of reaching for quick, like one look in a palette and, you know, just get on my way, not keep my hubby, my kids, my friends, whomever waiting around for me to put on a full beat. So I thought in order to keep this very direct, concise, and brief, allegedly, I would pose 4 questions about each of these palettes and let you know what my answers were. So the questions are, what, if anything, stood out about the palette in comparison to other palettes like itself or just in general with eyeshadow palettes? The second question is, what do you need to know before buying this product? And then the last question is a 2-parter, and that is knowing what I know now, having used these palettes for a good amount of time, creating multiple looks with these palettes. Number 1, would I repurchase this palette if it disappeared, if it broke, what have you? Knowing what I know now, would I personally repurchase the palette? And then the second part is, knowing what I know now, who would this palette be perfect for, in my opinion? So let's go ahead and get started because we have a lot of ground to cover. So we're gonna go ahead and go in order of price, starting with the most expensive quad, which is the Charlotte Tilbury Luxury Eyeshadow Quad in the Pillow Talk colorway. This is the actual Pillow Talk quad. This is not the palette of pops. It's very reflective, so I may blind you. You have 4 shades in the palette. You have a shimmer, 2 mattes, and then this glittery topper shade. This is what the palette looks like. You're immediately going to see that even on my very pale hand, these shades are quite soft, and this is kind of a heavy swatch of the brown in the palette. So the first question is, what, if anything, stood out about the palette? And I will tell you right off the bat, I was very surprised how light these colors are and just how much building it took for them to show up on even my very light skin tone. You know, I could honestly see hitting pan on this pretty quickly because of how much shadow I'm using to build it up. Not even to be kind of smoked out like this, but just to show up. So that's definitely a drawback to me. The thing I think you need to know about this palette before you buy it is that this glittery topper shade, I'm rubbing my finger in it, it's nearly useless. It doesn't have any binding ingredients. It barely picks up on the finger. It definitely doesn't pick up on a brush. Wetting it does not help it adhere to the eyelid at all. And honestly, it's just a dead shade for me. I don't think I will ever use it again. Now that I'm done testing the palette, I tried it over glitter glue. Like I said, I tried wetting the product. That's a quarter of the palette. So in terms of value for money, this palette's $56. So you're paying $56 for 3 eyeshadows, and 3 eyeshadows you're probably going to go through pretty quickly if you use this on any sort of regular basis. Knowing what I know now, would I repurchase this palette? No, absolutely not. $56 is just not worth it for me. Honestly, it's not worth it for me for 4 shades that work well enough. But especially with 25% of the palette gone, definitely not worth $56. These shadows aren't really unique at all. I do love the shimmer lid shade. It's very pretty. It's gold, but it's got some pinky, peachy kind of shift to it. So it is really pretty, but $56 for one eye look and one shadow that is useless is not good value for money. And then knowing what I know now, who would this palette be perfect for? Honestly, I cannot recommend this palette to you. I can't recommend that anybody go out and purchase this palette in good conscience. Mostly because the one shade is pretty useless, but also because this is only going to show up on the fairest of fair skin tones without using a crap ton of the product. So I can't in good conscience be like, yeah, go ahead, go spend $56 on 3 shades that aren't spectacular. Those are my thoughts. I'm sticking to it. Alright, the next high-end palette coming in at $25 for 5 shades is the Natasha Denona Mini Glam palette. I have been wanting this for quite some time, and I finally just pulled the trigger and treated myself to a little something something. So in this palette, you do actually get 3 of her different formulas. The 3 shimmers are all her metallic formula, so there's no chroma crystals or anything like that. This shade right here is actually her cream to powder formula, which I actually really love. I was introduced to her cream to powder formula in the gold palette and then again in the Love palette. But to have it in here, I really, really like that, and I'll get into that in a minute. And then the brown is just her creamy matte formula. So this is what it looks like swatched out. I just love these colors, and the metallics have just such a beautiful shine to them. So what stood out for me with this palette specifically was the inclusion of that cream to powder shade. I love that formula. I know some people aren't big on it. I'm absolutely big on it, and I love that it was included in one of her little mini palettes because this cream to powder shade makes a perfect base for any look that you might create with this palette or any other palette. It's just perfect. You can use your finger and you can apply it to your eye just like an eyeshadow primer. However, I also apply it up into my crease transition area, and then I just take any eyeshadow brush and buff it out around the edges. But using this as an eyeshadow base works phenomenal. I think it's just ever so slightly less creamy than like a MAC paint pot, and so it works really well for that, and that's definitely a standout for this particular mini palette from Natasha Denona. I think what you need to know about this palette is that even though it's called the Mini Glam palette, this palette would also be beautiful for every day. You have this beautiful bronze, you have a champagne, and then you have your basic transition shades as well. So even if you're not into wearing a color like this to the office, if you're going to the office right now, you can still get beautiful everyday looks out of this palette, whether you just use the mattes or you incorporate one of the lighter shimmer tones. And I think that makes this palette very versatile. I think it would work really well for someone who wanted something like that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Knowing what I know now, would I repurchase this palette if it disappeared, broke, whatever? Yes, 100% yes. This palette absolutely filled the need that I was hoping that it would in my collection, and that was to have another little very sturdy 5-pan color story that was 100% neutral. I love my Natasha Denona Star palette, and I love the new Mini Retro palette, but those are not neutrals, just neutrals. This is going to be great for traveling, and I just love everything about it. It's a really good, solid little neutral palette. And that leads me into who this palette would be perfect for. I kind of started to get ahead of myself on that one, but this palette would be perfect for anybody, especially anybody that wants to keep their collection minimal. If you're looking for a palette that will transition from day to night beautifully, absolutely this can do that. There just isn't anything that this little palette can't do in the realm of neutrals. So I think it's just a great palette for anybody. I would absolutely recommend this to you if you're looking for something like this in your life, looking for a fantastic travel palette. Beautiful, and especially with this creamy matte shade incorporated, it works as an eyeshadow base, so you can skip taking that with you as well. Alright, so the last 3 palettes are all of the e.l.f. bite-size eyeshadow palettes or quads that I have in my collection currently. Starting with the e.l.f. Cream and Sugar palette, I just heard so much hype over this little thing that I decided to go ahead and pick it up and try it. This is what the palette looks like. You have 2 mattes and 2 shimmers. The thing that I took note of right away with this palette is that this shade right here will only show up on either the lightest or the deepest of skin tones. This is not going to work for most people for anything other than setting your eyeshadow base if you're into doing that, which I'm not. The other thing that I think you need to know is that this deep shade right here unfortunately does not blend out well on the eye. It's very patchy and very dry, and in my opinion not consistent with the other mattes that I've experienced from this line of eyeshadows. And on that subject, to be honest, the 2 metallic shades or shimmer shades, while they are beautiful, I would not say that they're probably unique to anybody's collection. You have sort of an ivory champagne color and sort of a goldy bronze color, and I think most of us, if we own any eyeshadow at all, own these shades. So knowing what I know now, would I repurchase this particular colorway from e.l.f.? No. I was hoping that this little palette would be more unique based on all the hype on YouTube. I thought the shimmers looked more unique than they actually are in seeing them in other people's videos, and so who would this be perfect for? I personally, again, cannot recommend this palette based on the fact that the brown is patchy, the lightest shade is probably too light for most people, and the shimmers are uninteresting. Is that a word? They're not interesting. Next is the Pumpkin Pie colorway. This is pretty. This is what it looks like. Look at this bronzy shade down here. You have kind of an rusty brown, a copper, a straight up copper, a mid to deep tone neutral brown, and really nice bronze shade. You feel me here? Really nice bronze. This shade right here is now my favorite bronze powder eyeshadow in my entire collection. As you can see here, it looks like liquid metal. It is so beautiful. It's fantastic for just putting all over the lid and buffing out the edges up into the crease and or transition area and call it a day. Now, the pictures that I have of the look that I created with this are not good pictures. I wasn't happy with the overall look in the picture. Sometimes you get good pictures, sometimes you don't. That particular day was very, very dark and cloudy, so they just weren't good pictures. What you need to know is, however, these shades are all in the mid to deep range. They are, I mean, this shade you can buff out if you're very, very careful and you go in very, very lightly for more of a transition shade. I don't know. I love this palette. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but you do need to know that you're not going to get some very light, bright looks out of this little quad here. They're all going to be in the mid to deep range, although the copper, when layered over the bronze, does really nicely highlight the eye area wherever you place it. Knowing what I know now, would I repurchase this little quad again? Well, first of all, some of you may know I didn't purchase this one. My daughter picked this out for me specifically and brought it home, and I love it. But knowing what I know now, would I repurchase this particular quad? No. Only because these are not unique shades to my collection. Like I said, this bronze shade, oh man, it's just gorgeous. I think you have to see it in action, really. Very light, but look at that. It's just, it's like liquid. It's so smooth, and it looks that way on the eye too. Who would I recommend this palette to, knowing what I know now? somebody who is into doing looks with these colors very regularly, or say you have mostly cool tone shadows in your collection, this might be a nice little introductory course, if you will, to warm eyeshadows. You know, you can use these two together, you can use these two together, you can use them all together. I think this is actually one of the more versatile quads in the line in terms of the different looks that you could do that would look different with this little quad. So I mean, I do recommend this quad if you're looking to get one, if you're looking to do some beautiful copper and bronze looks. I say go for it. These are only $3, and so if any of the color stories speak to you and you're looking to add those into your collection in a very specific way, I say go for it. You absolutely can't lose in terms of the formula for the most part. Last but not least of my e.l.f. quads, as well as the winner, the tippity top of all of these quads slash mini palettes for me, is the e.l.f. Rosewater quad. I love this. It is so pretty. Look at those metallics, and then you just have the perfect mattes to set those two shades off. First of all, the thing I noted with this particular palette is I love all of the shades, both, you know, aesthetically as well as in performance. This purple right here does have some micro shimmer in it, some micro glitter. The glitter does not fall out in your face, but I do know and have learned that some companies introduce a tiny bit of glitter into a matte when it's something that would ordinarily be harder to blend. And that micro shimmer, as you use it to blend your eyeshadow, actually helps to deter patchiness or any, you know, untoward type of blending situations you might have. What you need to know about this palette before you buy it is that this is fantastic. All the shades are beautiful and apply and blend beautifully. If I had to recommend any of these palettes to you, this would be the one, providing you like the color story. Not everybody's into pink. If this palette disappeared or something happened to it, would I repurchase knowing what I know now? 1000% yes. I would probably repurchase this the same day because I don't want to be without it. I don't even know if you can tell, but I have some dips in this quad already because I absolutely love it for an everyday look, as well as, you know, a beautiful, I love that this is so deep, and I love that this is in this, has like the same tonal value as the deep purple does, because they actually mix together really well to create more of a mid-tone shade. But these are beautiful, and this palette is definitely much more versatile than what it looks like in the pan. Who do I think this would be perfect for? Everybody. Anybody that wants a soft, feminine, pinky look that they can play around with, and or if you don't have any pinks in your collection and you're looking for that sort of dusty rose mauve-y type thing to add to your collection on a dime, boom, this is beautiful. I highly recommend this to anybody that likes pink or mauve or dusty rose. I just can't say enough good things about this, and so she's the queen of this video. So I hope you enjoyed this little roundup of products. I've been working on this for a little while now. I really wanted to be able to give you my in-depth thoughts about each of these products and not just kind of jump on the bandwagon. If you did like this video, I would so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, and let me know down in the comments, what are your favorite smaller palettes, or which of these quads might be on your wish list, or maybe which of these quads are now checked off your wish list thanks to this video. I love hearing from you down in the comments as always. Let me know if you want to see any more looks from these palettes. I can incorporate them into a get ready with me very soon for you. And other than that, I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful makeup days. Please stay safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video real soon.